All right. All right, here we go. HNCWF, Hypercharge Networks Corporation. From what I can tell, this is a Canadian company. I don't have anything that pops up here. That's basically a penny stock, OTC pink sheets. The One of the biggest downsides to pink sheets is that it's heavily manipulated. From everything that I've read and studied and heard from people who've been worked for hedge funds, they have all said that the hedge funds and Wall Street control how pink sheets move, and they're one of the most heavily manipulated, heavily shorted um, platforms in the stock trading industry. Period. However, with that being said, there are also opportunities to make an enormous amount of money as well. Um, from what I haven't proven this yet, but I've seen some comments on various places of people saying that this stock will eventually make it to the Nasdaq, and that's a possibility for sure. But sometimes it takes months, even years before that happens. There's very specific criteria that the Nasdaq looks at as far as a company's performance, balance sheet, and investor sentiment that goes into deciding whether or not to move a stock from OTC into the Nasdaq. So, with that being said, let's take a look at kind of the fundamentals of this thing. Let's see here. All right. Here's Hypercharge Networks here. Just started looking at their website, trying to get an idea for any kind of press releases, news release. Let's look at some financial data. So they reported 2 quarters so far. I always like to look at their cash balance. How much cash do they have on hand? Shareholder equity has decreased, but so has their liabilities. Equity, liabilities gone up. Cash held in escrow, accounts receivable. Yeah. So this is always a concern, unaudited earnings results. And lately, even stocks in the Nasdaq or in the Dow, you've even got companies like, well, FedEx didn't have unaudited results, but they gave a pretty broad range of where their EPS share is, their earnings per share, which was very surprising that a company would do that. FedEx is one of the first major companies that reports every earnings season, and the earnings before this most recent one they came out, actually I think both of these last 2 reportings, they had a range, which is it was unheard of, or at least I haven't seen that happen before in a blue chip company, where they say their earning per share was anywhere from this low to this high, and it was a pretty wide gap. I mean, it could be $1 or more where that range is, instead of saying the earning per share was $1 EPS. Uh, it seems that more companies are doing that as well, and it appears to be an attempt to prevent their stock from tanking, because they can say that there's a range and there can be a wide range, when in reality their actual earnings per share is below analyst estimates, and which would cause the company to report a loss in revenue and sales across the board, and their stock would sell off. So in order for companies to they're operating in a gray area and get around that, they give a range estimate in their earnings per share when they report. So this company is very new. Honestly, you'd expect them to have a lot more liabilities. 2.4 million in the hole. That's not unusual, especially for a new company. Weighted average number of shares. Okay, so they have 55. I started out with 36 million shares and increased to 55. So this is another big thing with penny stocks is the dilution. There's going to be a point where the company is going to have to raise more capital, and the easiest way to do that is to create more shares, which will dilute the overall value of their shares, and that in itself is an easy way. It opens the door for heavy manipulation. I'll get to that here in a second. Let's keep going here and make sure there's nothing else. Okay, that's good. Got 4.1 million in cash. What is this? I need December 21st. 4 months. Okay. All right, that makes a little bit more sense here. Oh, this is in Canadian dollars. Either way. Okay, so this here confirms what was being said about the company having financial results and highlights. Came out February 14th. 4-month period. Company gross revenue surpassed 1.2 million. I'm curious to see where's the company, what exactly are they selling now? I know what the company does, but you want it to be clear that the company is selling. You want the clients, the customers, at least a few of them to be known or to be advertised. 3-month period in the first quarter, revenue exceeding 1 million, 4.1 million cash on hand. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the secret to finding out of whether or not a company is bullshitting people or just putting fluff numbers out there, because you can only get so much from words on a web page or on paper. You need to listen to the actual earnings call, because you'll be able to hear it in the CEO or whomever's reporting the numbers. You'll be able to hear it in their voice as to whether or not what they're saying they truly believe. Solutions. Okay, so I want to know where their chargers are. Where do you have your chargers? Public and private charging stations. Private I would assume within people's homes. That's a kind of a market that I haven't really seen. I haven't done much research on who the manufacturers are and providers for in-home charging for electric vehicles, because if you had a Tesla vehicle and the Tesla system to charge the vehicle is too expensive, but you've got a competitor out there who offers it for 1/3 of the price or 2/3 of the price, significantly cheaper, and all you need is an adapter to plug in your Tesla. Now, that can be the downside of that is that can be with a simple update to the Tesla vehicle. Tesla can decide whether or not they want to allow you to use any other charging station. Now, my neighbor has a Tesla. I need to ask him that question, because now that I think about it, it'd be a good question to ask. Are you able to use any third-party charging stations? Now, most Tesla people would not have the need to, but at the same time, they probably wouldn't want to either. And it wouldn't surprise me if, somewhere in the fine print, Tesla said if you use another third-party charging station, you would you would void your warranty on this.